A ruthless mafia boss falls for the doctor who slapped him. He marries her and spoils her with love. The rain poured mercilessly over the gleaming skyline of New Verona City, a place where power, money, and danger shared the same heartbeat. In the dim glow of the night, a black Maserati glided through empty streets like a silent beast. Inside sat a man whose name alone made grown men tremble, Damien Cross, the most feared mafia boss in New Verona. He ruled the underworld with precision and cruelty. People said he had no heart, no weakness, no mercy. But that night, fate decided to prove them all wrong. A gun deal gone wrong had left Damien bleeding. His men rushed him to a private clinic miles away from the chaos, one that operated quietly for men like him. The smell of antiseptic filled the air when the emergency doors burst open. Nurses scattered, frightened by the intimidating men carrying guns. But among them stood one woman who didn't flinch, drive. Elena Carter. Calm, composed, and breathtakingly beautiful, she didn't see a mafia boss. She saw a patient on the verge of death. "Put him here," she ordered firmly, ignoring the chaos. Her voice was steady as her gloved hands pressed against Damien's wound. "If you don't step back, I won't save him." One of his men growled, but Damien weakly motioned for silence. His sharp gray eyes met hers for a brief second before darkness swallowed him. When he woke up, the first thing he saw was her. Tired eyes, hair tied messily, lips pressed into a line as she checked his pulse. She wasn't intimidated by him, not even when she realized who he was. "You're lucky," she muttered. "The bullet missed your heart by an inch." "Guess my heart's harder to kill," he replied with a smirk, voice still rough. She didn't smile. She only rolled her eyes and told him to rest. Nobody had ever rolled their eyes at Damien Cross before. And for some strange reason, he liked it. Over the next few days, Damien stayed under her care. Elena treated him like any other patient. No special respect, no fear. She even slapped his hand once when he tried to remove his IV. "Do that again, and I'll sedate you," she warned. He blinked in disbelief. "Did you just slap me?" "Yes," she said coldly. "And I'll do it again if you act like a child." For the first time in years, Damien laughed. Not his usual dark, cold laugh, but a real one. Something about her courage, her voice, her honesty, touched a part of him he didn't know existed. When he was finally discharged, he offered her money, an obscene amount. She refused. "You can't buy me," she said. That night, for the first time in his life, Damien felt small. And strangely enough, he couldn't get her out of his mind. Days turned into weeks, and he found excuses to see her again. A checkup, a pain in his shoulder, even a follow-up on his stitches. Elena knew what he was doing, but somehow, she didn't push him away. Beneath his rough exterior, she began to see a man scarred by his past, someone who'd built walls to protect himself from a world that had betrayed him too many times. They started talking about life, choices, and regrets. Damien confessed that he'd lost his family to a rival gang years ago. That pain had turned him into the monster everyone feared. Elena didn't pity him, she challenged him. "Maybe it's time to stop being the monster," she said softly one night. "You're still alive for a reason." He stared at her then, really stared. And for the first time, he realized that her words felt like peace. One evening, after a particularly long day, she stepped outside the clinic to find him waiting beside his car. The city lights reflected in his eyes. "Dinner," he said simply. "No guards, no guns. Just dinner." She hesitated, but curiosity won. That night, under the dim light of a small Italian restaurant, she saw a side of Damien no one else did. He was funny, awkward, even. He didn't talk about business or power. He asked about her childhood, her favorite books, her dreams. Dreams, she laughed. To help people, to save lives, to live peacefully. He smiled. "Maybe one day, you'll teach me how to do that." Weeks turned into months. Their worlds collided in secret. Stolen moments, late-night conversations, and slow walks under city lights. But Elena's heart was torn. She knew who he was, what he did. And no matter how much she tried to ignore it, the truth always hovered like a storm cloud. One night, she confronted him. "I can't do this, Damien. I can't love a man who destroys what I try to heal." He looked at her silently, pain flickering in his eyes. Then let me change. For you. And he meant it. He started stepping back from the underworld. He handed over territories, dissolved violent operations, and began investing in legitimate businesses, clinics, orphanages, shelters. His men thought he'd lost his mind. But in truth, he'd finally found his heart. 6 months later, he stood outside the same clinic where it all began, holding a single white rose. Elena opened the door, surprised to see him dressed not in black, but in a crisp white suit. "You changed," she whispered. He smiled. "You did that." When he knelt on one knee, she froze. "Elena Carter," he said softly, "you slapped me, saved me, and made me believe I could be human again. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes. She nodded before words could form. "Yes, Damien, I will." Their wedding was small and private, far away from flashing lights or gunfire. Just the sound of the sea, the scent of roses, and two souls who had defied the odds. The ruthless mafia boss and the fearless doctor became husband and wife. After marriage, Damien turned into a man nobody recognized. He'd cook breakfast for her, wait outside her clinic with flowers, spoil her with gifts, and treat her like she was the most precious thing on earth. When she was tired, he'd draw her a bath, whispering softly, "You saved me, and I'll spend forever proving I deserved it." Years passed, and they built a quiet life together, a home filled with laughter instead of fear. Damien opened a foundation in her name, helping victims of violence and funding hospitals. The world knew him as a businessman now. But at home, he was simply her husband, the man who once ruled darkness but chose love instead. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, Damien sat beside Elena on their balcony, their fingers intertwined. "Do you ever regret saving me?" he asked quietly. She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Not for a second, because saving you saved me too." He kissed her forehead gently, the same ruthless man who once lived by the gun now living by love. And as the last light faded over New Verona City, Damien whispered the words he'd never said to anyone before. "You were the only thing I couldn't buy, and the only thing I'll never let go." Sometimes, love doesn't come from perfect beginnings, it rises from the ashes of broken souls. He was a monster until she taught him how to feel again. If you believe love can change even the coldest heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-melting stories. Heart.